I've been,
So you have nothing. Well, this ought to
I
be
have,
an
I have
interesting
nothing.
episode.
Yeah, uh, we'd finished one trial, one full tick trial with just female ticks going
Oh,
10 days.
hang on. Let's do the introduction. Let's not lose this great material.
I don't even know what episode we're on. Is this episode 10?
Yes, this is the big episode 10.
Gosh. Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to Death and Decomp Podcast. This is episode 10. Woo! My name's
Long,
Dr.
long
Emmanuel.
in coming, much awaited, I'm sure. So very exciting. I have cafe au lait this morning.
Oh, just English breakfast. English
Excellent.
breakfast.
Mine's in my IT crowd. Have you tried turning it on and off again mug? So
I need to get an array of tea mugs. I only use this one.
I know there's this consistency there, but
Mm-hmm.
but variety could be good too.
The nice thing about it is that everybody knows they can't touch it. Like that's mom's. You can't use that for anything.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Okay,
so you had started to tell me before we began recording about the progress on the tick trials. So let's turn to tick matters.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's progress so much, but we have one full trial in the books. Start another one next week. No, week after. After we get back from spring break, we'll start trial 2. Things I can tell you. Rabbits get very stink after 10 days with a lid. The ticks did hardly anything. And so I was talking to my student, and we're going to run our remaining trials, and if the ticks still don't seem to do much, I told them we would do a couple of trials with just straight chemicals, just like straight chemical comparisons, not using anything decomposing. And if we still don't get any reaction, then we're going to go with anecdotal is anecdotal.
And what chemicals are going to use?
I don't know, cadaverine, maybe putrescine. The one you can buy. I mean, those are the ones that are easy to buy. So
very good. Very
yeah,
good.
I need to get a new CO2 monitor. I don't like the one we have, and I'm not sure how accurate it is. And the ticks kept doing this weird thing. So this was female only trial this time, and they kept like flipping over. And I thought at first maybe it was like like a electric thing, like they were like an electric magnetic thing or something, that the plastic tubing was holding charges, and it was like moving them weird. You know how that sometimes I've had that happen in petri dishes before. And so I rinsed everything down, started it up, still happened, and it kept. And then a lot of them, they acted like one of their legs was getting stuck. Not in the same place either. So it wasn't like there was something in that tube specifically that was doing it. And then they just stayed in the introduction tubes and didn't move. So
more reasons not to work with ticks.
yeah.
So when you say, I mean, they were flipping themselves up like turtles on their back?
Yeah. They'd get flipped over, and then they'd flip back, and then they'd move a little bit, and they get flipped over, and it was really weird. So I tried to discharge any electricity that I thought might be in that tube, but I don't know.
Yeah, you thought it was building up static electricity then?
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah. And my student said, because I was in there on Sunday, so that was day 8, and so my student had been in there the previous days, and they said the same thing, that they noticed the ticks were like doing weird things like that. So I don't know. Ticks are a trip for sure.
Well, we're going to, I can't do anything right now, but we're going to redo the lethal temperature studies. And I'm going to try to get some different species. So if you have a student who wants to work on that with us, it would be really straightforward to have you do some stuff there and for us to do some things. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind as a possibility. And at least there, I guarantee they die. So you will get results. You heat them up enough, they don't like it.
We do have a student, I think, that's going to be working on some heat shock protein stuff with maggots. So,
well, you could do it in combination then.
Yeah.
So I have two topics for today.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first topic is going to be short because I haven't read the papers, but did you notice in Journal of Forensic Science that there were 2 sets of papers on scoring methods for decomp?
I noticed them, but I didn't read them.
I haven't read them either. That's an idea that won't die, isn't it?
It is.
It just keeps on going on and on, wanting to score decomposition. What? Why?
I think maybe it's a human characteristic, wanting to categorize things.
Well, I do know it's a scientific thing, wanting to categorize stuff, but
I don't think it's
God.
just scientific. I think it's a basic human idea, categorization, putting things in groups.
Well, the thing, there's 2 things about it. First, they're categorizing something that's not easily categorized.
Yep.
And then second, they will do it they want it to be a linear scale for a process that's not linear across time. Is that a fair characterization?
Yep. It is. I didn't say humans were great at it.
Just that they want to do it.
I just think that they like to do it.
So I don't think we've talked about this before, and if we have, I know we haven't spoken about it in this detail, but I watched this wonderful YouTube video on whale decomposition.
Oh, excellent.
And it included stages of decomposition and so forth. So I took notes. I thought we could talk about that. And there's a little appreciated niche on YouTube. That seems like such an unusual and difficult topic to discuss, whale decomposition. You would think that there might be just one video, but there's a ton of different videos about whale decomposition.
That doesn't surprise me. They're big, they're noticeable, they're on plate, they wash up on the beaches where people can see them.
Well, yeah, but you've got to use submarines or what do you call them? ROVs to actually take pictures. At the bottom. Yeah. So the other interesting category, which I highly recommend, are exploding whales. And it answers it definitive. There's 2 types of explosions. There's the artificial explosion, the famous using TNT to dispose of the whale carcass. But they also have a whole series of bloated whales that people pop.
Right. I think I've seen a couple videos of that actually.
So I'm going to have a number of links to post after this, but the video I watched is called Stages of Whale Decomposition until you watch it. And then its title is really, I'm looking over here, The Hidden World of Whale Falls. So a whale fall being
going to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I know that I think I've seen a few videos of the underwater falls. They do bring in just a vast array of different animals. Fish.
Yeah, they sure do. And so the sequence is not entirely unlike the terrestrial thing. It starts with a bloat phase, which is on the surface. And apparently those are mostly marine birds, and sharks are really attracted to it. And then when it explodes or degasses, as I would call it, whatever you want to say, when the bloat is over, the carcass falls to the bottom. And get this, Amanda, they said that one, they'll get scavengers from miles away. That doesn't surprise me because
Nope.
sharks will go miles. It said that it will support different marine life for decades, although I learned that that's not really true. It's more like centuries. And somebody did this calculation. Apparently the benthic, the bottom of the ocean floor is for the most part supported by organic debris that comes down from the surface, which, as you can imagine, it's not a lot. And so it said that a 40-ton whale carcass will provide the same nutrients as 2,000 years of marine snow. This dropping of nutrients from the surface, 2,000 years worth.
Wow.
In a single island.
So a single whale decomposing
and
provides 2,000 years worth of nutrients.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this that I wonder about, they talk about whale fall, but there's surely there must be fish or other types of carcasses that make their way to the sea floor.
Well,
but
yeah, maybe in smaller pieces. I bet those smaller fish get consumed fairly fast before they hit the bottom.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question to me about whether everything is consumed towards the surface or whether there are other things. But whales, for whatever purpose, whales go to the bottom. So at depth, when it first hits, there's a whole bunch of mobile predators, and they mentioned hagfish and sharks as the primary thing that's eating soft tissue, and that starts within hours of the carcass hitting the bottom. It wouldn't surprise me if sharks were there in minutes. And then the second phrase they called enrichment opportunists, which is actually talking about the things that are there rather than the organ. But basically, organic sediments come away. There's lipids and stuff in the bones, and there's some organic detritus, and so that's mostly invertebrates. And there's a whole bunch of different worms and octopi and so forth that basically scavenge the bones and take off more tissue. And a few of them actually will burrow into the sediment around the whale carcass, where there's also increased nutrients. And then the weird one, in my opinion, is something called the third stage, which is the sulfophilic stage. And that can last up to 50 years. Basically, there are chemosynthetic bacteria that feed on lipids and stuff that are dissolved in the bones, and they extract that. And as they do that, they produce sulfur-containing compounds, which in turn support weird worms of many different types and species. And as long as there's stuff being secreted out of the bones, and given that you've got really large bones, that can take a long time. Apparently, that can be a process of some decades to actually go through that. And then they speculate, but I think it's probably true, that the last stage is what they call the reef stage, which is basically where sessile organisms use the remaining bones to
build their houses.
As a substrate.
Yeah, attached. Wow. Worms at the bottom of the ocean floor I find incredibly creepy. I'm just gonna throw that out there. You see those like little images of them like poking up out of the bottom of the ocean. I feel like that's a horror movie waiting to happen.
Yeah, there's a whole series of these worms that I never had because I can't identify, I can't associate because I never had invertebrate zoology. And
I did have invert zoo.
So
that's what got me to the Bering Sea.
So tell me about tell me some worm lore.
Oh, I don't remember. That was undergrad.
You went all the way to the Bering Sea, worked on them, and you don't remember?
Study benthic predators, as a matter of fact. Yeah, that's what I was there for. But yeah, not worms. I wasn't studying worms.
Well, so I'll take benthic predators for 200.
Sea stars, snow crab, and the big whelk snails is what the researchers that I was working under were interested in. So yeah, we used a giant trawl net, and we trawled the bottom of the Bering Sea for a mile at a time, I think, and pulled it up, and then had to sort through and count and identify whatever was in the net. There was lots of brittle stars, which I also find gross, similar to sea stars, but they have more legs and they're like crustier. They're like, ugh.
Now, did you have to use a scope to do some of your ID work?
Mm-mm.
I was curious if trying to use a microscope on a rocking sea ship makes you nauseated or not.
Not me. I don't suffer from motion sickness. So, and I mean, it was a pretty big boat. It was like 420 feet. It was a Coast
Yeah,
Guard.
but they have pretty big seas in the Bering.
They do. They do. It's calmer in the summer, but yeah, for a time I was really good at identifying benthic predators from the bottom of the Bering Sea, but I find worms inherently gross. Fascinating, but gross. And I'm including things like nematodes in there. I don't know. They're just weird. They have weird life cycles. They have weird biologies. They have, yeah, ugh. And then the ones that live at the bottom of the ocean, eating sulfur. Come on. Not even sulfur gas, it sounds like. No, thank you.
Well, sulfur-containing compounds to give them their due. So,
ew.
Now, the only ones I remember, they mentioned polychaete worms, but I don't know. I wouldn't know a polychaete worm if I met it on the street. So
yeah, I wouldn't either. I think I still have my notes. I should go back and refresh. But I was working for 2 graduate students in the Bering Sea. They would be ashamed of me probably. I don't remember.
Is this you haven't had memory loss from trying to drink with the coasties when you guys were in port?
No, but I can tell you that they drank more than anybody I'd ever seen before. Not on the ship, because United States Coast Guard's dry, but you can drink, or you could at the time. Canadian Coast Guard could drink on ship.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's changed, but back then you could.
It must be part of the British naval tradition of the rum ration.
So did you hear, speaking of oceanic predators and decomposition, did you hear about the Argentinian man who was identified by his tattoo? They found his arm in a shark's stomach.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, it was like end of February, I saw it. He had been riding like a ATV, like a 4-wheeler or something, along the coast, and they think that he wrecked. They found the wrecked ATV but couldn't find his body anywhere. They think he must have, because it was like an oceanside cliff, fallen into the ocean. And at some point, whether he was already dead or not, got eaten by sharks. And some fishermen a week later, 2 weeks later, caught 3 sharks, and they were opening them up on deck and found human body parts in one of them, and had not been digested at all enough that they could identify who it was based on tattoo.
Well, one, quit killing sharks.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh God, can they do that? Like, is that?
Doesn't seem like it's right, does it?
What kind of shark? School sharks?
What kind?
School sharks? I don't know. Oh, also known as a taupe shark, a snapper shark, or a soup fin shark. Grows to an average of 6 feet long, and attacks from the species are incredibly rare. So I'm wondering if he was dead already.
Yeah, I'll bet that this was a scavenger issue.
Yeah.
I wonder what proportion of shark diet is scavenging and what proportion is actually predation. Because after reading about sharks and whales, it makes me wonder. Um,
Yeah.
they're sort of very opportunistic.
Yes. I think that's true. Hmm.
So speaking of crab, my sister is down from Alaska, and
Oh,
I asked her about the king crab and the snow crab catch bans, if they'd had any impact. And she responded, "Oh my God, yes." So apparently, not only is that a big deal where she's at, but also there were discussions about restrictions on salmon catch,
hmm.
which apparently was um, all the talk of Kings Cove while those discussions were going on. So,
Oh, I can imagine that
yeah,
there.
I, what I can tell from what little reading I've done, I don't see that season opening anytime soon. It looks to me like those populations of snow crab in particular took a precipitous drop in a single year. So it doesn't seem likely that they would be able to rebound in sufficient time to allow a
Yeah,
sustainable catch. That's what I wanted to say.
even when we were up there, which would have been 2006, I think. Uh, my mom will correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 2006. Um, there were even then they were seeing fewer numbers, and they were seeing a lot more warmer water species finding their way up there, and that's what I mean. That's what they were really looking at was effective
And
climate.
I assume it's water warming is underlying a lot of this.
Yeah, so I'm sure if they were seeing reduced numbers even back then, add in over harvesting or overfishing and just compound effects of climate change. And yeah, rebounding would be really difficult, I think.
It amazes me to see people that the climate change deniers have kind of hidden, right? Nobody's ever held to account for their bad opinions that
Mm-hmm.
are demonstrably wrong. But excuse me, I noticed, I don't know what I was listening to, but I was listening to people complaining about efficiency standards or something like that. Do they think things are just going to solve themselves without getting worse and worse? I mean,
Did you read, shout out to Tierney here? I don't know if she watches our podcast, but have you read the Adrian Tchaikovsky, I think his last name is, the Children of Time books? She recommended them to me, and I'm on the first book. There's three of them, and the premise
are
of the
these
book.
the lobster books?
I don't. There's no
The,
lobsters.
the alien creatures that are crustacean like?
Not yet. I don't. In this book, it's spiders. Spiders and ants
Well,
have,
okay, spiders, ants. Yeah, I've read those books.
and then the second one I think is octopuses, and the third one is crows. I think so. Yeah, the Earth has been like absolutely destroyed, and like exact mentality. Humans were just like, oh, we'll figure, it'll just take care of itself. Somebody will come up with something and it'll fix it. And instead, they had to like go start terraforming other planets that ultimately failed. So
I blame not listening to our podcasts as the biggest problem.
same, same. And there's that meme. I don't know if you've seen it, where it's like every horror movie starts with someone ignoring a scientist.
Oh, right, right. So true.
So yeah, or every sci-fi movie starts with someone ignoring a scientist. It's like, yeah, that
Well,
seems about right.
it's the most realistic part of those films, that's for sure.
Unfortunately, yes.
It's funny that comes up because I remember um, the kind of classic science fiction movie Them from 1953, the giant ant movie. You've not seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Well worth seeing. And two of the main characters are entomologists. And I remember asking my students, we watched it. I had a movie night after class, and I remember asking them what was the most unrealistic feature. And I said, well, one, there's a female scientist and the men are listening to her. That's not realistic.
Oh,
And two, they're treating these two scientists with respect. I said, and listening to them, wanting their opinions.
No.
So the giant ants are more believable than those two things. So
I just read some concerning statistics speaking about female entomologists specifically. They make up over 40% of graduate entomology degrees, but less than 1 in 4 are in what was it, federal and academic jobs.
Is there an explanation for that?
They said possibly, they didn't have any like definite answers, but they said possibly like family, start a family and don't go into academia. Unwelcoming environments for female entomologists in academia. They just list. I mean, it was just like a list of general things that could potentially be there.
Do you know? She's a grad student now. Claire Donahue. She was an undergraduate here. Went with me to.
Yeah, I just talked to her yesterday in my office.
Oh, of course you do. We'll talk to Claire about what she has heard in her department in Oregon regarding female scientists. It's like something from the 1940s. I'm not even going to grace it with the 1950s. Yeah, she's told me some things that are unbelievable in this day and age. Basically questioning what role women should have doing science. Talk about an unsupportive environment.
Oh my gosh. Let me double check my statistics here. Yeah, 40% of entomology doctoral degrees. And men still, here we go. Men still exceed women in university and federal entomology jobs by roughly 3-to-1 ratio.
So a quarter mm-hmm. versus 40%.
Yep.
Hey, it's snowing outside.
Yes, it is.
Great. You know why it's snowing? It's because Phyllis and I are scheduled to go see the cranes Saturday morning, which Phyllis tells me is supposed to be the coldest day in the last couple weeks. So,
I mean, nothing like some bitter cold bird watching.
I'm gonna earn those photographs of the cranes the hard way.
Are you guys going to a blind or just like parking on the side of the road?
No, I paid the big money to get seats in the blind at Rose Sanctuary. So
okay. I've never done it. You'll have to tell me how it is.
I will. Everybody says that it's spectacular, and they also say you'll be as cold as you've ever been in your life. So
okay.
Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's how you pay for the privilege of seeing a wonder of nature. But I'm excited. I think both of us are excited to go.
Yeah, that would be exciting. I know that birds are vertebrates, but I have developed an affinity for them as I have gotten older.
Wow.
I enjoy watching them and learning.
Well, I'm anxious to hear what you hear about what you get to see when you go to Iceland this summer. So
I am too. I've already there's not a whole bunch of data out there about insects and there's more birds. There's more data on birds and the few mammals that are over there. But yeah, I'm excited to see it too.
Puffins? Is that what you could look forward?
Yeah, there are puffins.
That I'd always wanted to see puffins. That would be extraordinary.
Yeah, we got our itinerary, our detailed itinerary back. So we know where we're going when, what days, which is always nice.
And you're gonna drive around the island?
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
And is the volcano still, do you know, is the volcano still erupting so you can walk and see the volcano?
Yes, south of Reykjavik. So 130 active volcanoes currently on the island, but only one of them is erupting.
Wow.
I don't know what the difference is. Like, I assume active just means they're rumbling and there's movement or something. I don't know, but yeah, only one is actively erupting.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
So the last thing I have to ask you is that box of stuff I gave you, what are you going to do with the beetles?
Oh, I put them in my office.
Oh, did you? So you have a beetle display in your office now?
Yeah. Yeah. I should take a picture. I put them on the lip of my chalkboard in my
Very
office.
good. Very
Yeah.
good.
And I'm going to frame the embroidered skull with the rose and hang that on the wall. And I took out all of I forgot that we had bought those glowing maggots. Loved that
Right.
I found them. And I put them all along the top of my computer monitor. And and then like nobody will probably ever notice them. Uh, what else is in there? I put the note cards in my drawer just so I can pull them out if needed. But yeah, that was like a Pandora's box of
Yeah. Well,
fun things.
there will be more. I've got a box to send of goodies to send to Kelly and a thing to send to Tierney as well. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to take care of my kids.
Yeah, I appreciated it.
Good, good.
Yeah, they were cool. I
Well,
didn't know
that's
you.
all I have for today, and we'll get back on. Hopefully, we get back on schedule now that we've got number
Uh,
10 in the bag. So
well, just this episode 10 was our catch-up episode.
that's
It's
right.
been a couple weeks since
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen you. So,
It's all that teaching that gets in the way of the fun stuff.
uh, I know it really does sometimes. Although I've been enjoying, I have a good group of students this semester, so I've been enjoying it a little more.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Excellent. Excellent.
Actually, it's not so much the students. It's that I have a little more time because I'm only teaching a couple sections of the same class and then the associated lab. So I have my afternoons open, which allows me to interact with my research students more and to like work on manuscripts more. And so it's been an enjoyable semester just because I've had a little more time and it doesn't feel as frantic as other semesters have.
That sounds terrific.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So
Well, I'm down to dregs, the last of my
uh,
cup.
oh, I actually have a little bit left, but you finished first, so it's okay. Next time.
Okay,
Next
we'll see you guys next time.
time.
Bye.
Goodbye.